Well, one of the things I've come to enjoy about traveling is finding new places and interesting sites. And sometimes you find a place to camp and it's fine and whatever. And other times you do a little exploring. You find a place to camp. You see one vehicle go by in 3 days. One too many, but one vehicle in 3 days. And you also find some interesting ruins that have been there for a long, long time. So we were camped in Utah here. I guess you'd call it southwest Utah, not too far from Parowan Gap, where there's some really cool petroglyphs. You may have seen our video about that already. If not, it's worth checking out. I think they're a pretty cool historical site.
Yeah, I thought the petroglyphs themselves were just fascinating, because you got to think that somebody way back when thought it was important enough to write something on the rocks, and I did think it was interesting. There was even some people from the 1800s or late 1800s who had also kind of signed their names to the rocks there. So definitely an important spot for quite a number of people. I wonder if some of these ruins were back from the late 1800s, whether they were left by settlers, or perhaps it was another group of people that came later.
I could believe that. Some of the stuff we saw. There's one concrete cylindrical tank type structure. Looks like it was poured concrete, so it must have been newer than the 1800s, I think.
I would think so, yeah.
I don't know when. It's been there for a long, long time. Many decades, obviously. I would not be surprised if it's older than me, for example. I never did figure out what that was about. Whether it was maybe like the base of a silo, or if it's a cistern, or what it is.
Yeah, it obviously had the trough next to it, so that's what makes it. You think it had to do something with livestock either way, whether it was water.
The trough combined with everything else. Yeah, it does make me think it was some kind of a livestock type infrastructure.
Yeah, and then there is a wash right there, so possibly that was held more water at the time, and they were able to store that water.
That is true. That's true. When you're doing agriculture and whether you're doing crops or animals in the desert like that, you got to be always thinking of water.
Yeah. So perhaps the land itself was a little more, available for grains and growing other things for livestock, because there was a wash there. Right now, though, it's it was tumbleweed, I think, is what we thought. Most of the land there was covered with. Yeah,
we found a lot of tumbleweed and sand. So tough grazing these days, I'm sure, and trying to grow anything would probably be just a lost cause, I would think. Today, obviously, people did something out there in years past.
Yeah.
And then we found this other site. We walked over a hill, and there it was, and honestly, we don't know what to make of this either. I have tried researching this. I've even contacted BLM and not heard back from them, trying to see if any of their rangers knew what it was about. I thought at first it was a corral, and who knows, maybe it was a very small corral, but it certainly would have been small if that's the case. And you may have seen this already in another video where we talked about exploring the Utah desert and more outhouse news. But when I got the drone up and flew it, I realized that it's not actually as round as I thought it was. It's a little bit more square. My first thought was it must have been a corral, but it would have been a small corral if that's the case. Melanie had her own ideas about it.
Or an old foundation or something.
Now let's go find out.
Corral. Well, I had seen that inside there was obviously a fire circle, and I don't know whether that was added after. It could have. It wasn't actually dug down or anything. Given that there were Native American petroglyphs nearby, perhaps this was a sweat lodge or something, or it could have been a yurt. Maybe somebody had come along and built. There was a bed frame, I know, off to the side, and the smashed toilet. But but yeah, so it could have been some sort of living or site, like a yurt.
Right. And, the other thing that just comes to my mind right now as looking at this footage again is that I've been assuming it was only one thing. But it's also possible that it was constructed or initially developed for one purpose and then abandoned and later used for a different purpose and modified a little. That's possible, too.
Yeah, because the amount of rocks here is kind of curious. There are rocks in the area, but right nearby here, there aren't a whole lot.
Yeah, somebody had to transport that rock, all of those rocks, a ways. Like you said, there is some not miles away, but it's a ways away. And to get that many large rocks, that had to be a feat by itself.
Yeah, somebody had to be
motivated.
Yeah, it was motivated. It was important. This was important, so
I wish they'd left a sign for us or something. A note.
This was my house.
So, we don't know what it is. But if you ever seen anything like this in Utah, in the desert, southwest Utah, not far from the Nevada border, boy, if you ever seen anything like this, let us know, because we're curious about it. We've not heard back from BLM yet. We'd love to know what it is. But these are just some of the scenes from the area we were camped at, from the drone. And I hope you enjoyed seeing these scenes from our trip. And if you enjoyed this video at all, don't forget to hit the like button before you go. Consider subscribing to the channel if you're not already, so that you can hopefully be notified when we publish additional travel-related videos, which we try to do multiple times per week. And thanks for joining us for this video. We'll catch you in the next one, everybody.